Recorded Books presents The Belgrade Conspiracy by Jason Kasper. Narrated by Corey M. Snow. 1. Belgrade, Serbia. I pulled open the glass door and stepped inside, holding it ajar for Worthy to enter behind me. Given the frigid November temperatures, I was more than happy to enter a heated establishment. Rubbing my gloved hands together, I appraised the store interior to find an elderly man carrying 2 bottles of wine toward a checkout counter, where a single clerk nodded toward me with the greeting, "Popodne." "Zdravo," I replied, procuring a shopping basket from a stack beside the door and leading Worthy toward the aisles. I was quite used to feeling like an outsider, even, and perhaps especially, in the peaceful civilian existence that was my life in America. Grocery stores, polite dinner parties, and my daughter's school events were all alien settings where I didn't belong. Liquor stores, by contrast, were more or less a second home, regardless of country. I strode the aisles with a discerning eye, dismayed to note the bourbon section was limited to a few major brands without a drop of Woodford Reserve to be found. Scotch was far more abundant, exceeding the combined bottles of all the gin, rum, and tequila in the store. There was also a shockingly robust selection of cognac, but not until I rounded a corner was I met with this establishment's real specialty: a wall full of rakia, a fruit brandy that was wildly popular in the Balkans and nowhere else. Serbia alone had over 10,000 private producers, of which roughly 1% didn't consist of hangovers in a bottle. So I kept to the top shelf, selecting 3 of the more expensive options to deposit in my basket. Worthy tapped me on the shoulder, and I turned to see that the lone customer had completed his purchase and was making for the exit. I unzipped my coat and took a circuitous route to the register, ostensibly perusing the shelves before giving a sidelong glance out the glass door to make sure no one else was approaching. With that confirmed, I set my basket beside the register and appraised the clerk. He was probably in his 20s, with a barely-there goatee and an apron bearing the store logo and a name tag that read, Bojan. "Deadliest ve?" he asked. "Da, Bojan," I answered, reaching into my coat pocket as he scanned the first bottle. Once he set it down, I drew a taser and leveled it over the counter, firing twin probes that speared into his chest and abdomen. He went completely rigid and fell backward, grimacing with the 50,000-volt pulse that surged through his system, as I kept the trigger depressed and hoisted myself to a sitting position atop the counter. A switch somewhere was linked to a silent alarm, though not to summon police. At this point, they were the least of our concerns. If he managed to activate it, we were in for a hell of a ride. Worthy vaulted the counter beside me, descending on the man and cocking back a fist. I let off the trigger, seeing the cashier's face go momentarily slack with relief, before my partner delivered a vicious knockout strike. "Go," he said. Tossing the taser over the counter, I left Worthy to gag and restrain the man with flex cuffs, while I moved swiftly to the front door and engaged the deadbolt. Then I flipped the hanging sign to indicate the store was officially closed for business, turned to face the service door on the back wall, and pulled aside my coat to access the weapon held against my side by a short elastic sling. The H&K MP7 was marketed as a personal defense weapon, though its capabilities served equally well in an offensive capacity. Larger than a pistol, but smaller than most submachine guns, the compact weapon in my hands packed a 20-round magazine loaded with armor-piercing 4.6mm ammunition, its total length almost doubled by the suppressor until I extended the buttstock. I slipped alongside the checkout counter, seeing that Worthy was already rising and putting his identical weapon into operation. As I closed the distance to the service door leading to the back rooms, he retrieved a violet box from the most expensive rakia bottle and set it on the counter. A decidedly untactical move that I'd give him hell for later. Pulling twin radio earpieces from beneath my coat collar,
Sample complete. Ready to continue?